This is 40K Today. Good news. If you're listening to this, we won't have to notify the ecclesiarchy of potential heresy. You're okay. Carry on, citizen.
Hiya, folks, and welcome to 40K Today. So this is your daily shot of 40K. We feature stories from all across the hobby, competitive play, conversions, painting, law, you name it, we do it. And, of course, all across the world as well. And today is a very international show. I'm your host, Steve Joel, and today on the program, top UK mentor, YouTuber and player Stephen Box is going to break down how to play Blood Angels in 9th edition. And in just a second, we speak to Neil Kerr from the WTC about their new podcast. Before we get into that, though, hey, we're running a poll on our Facebook page and we love your feedback. The question is this: in the whole wide world of 40K, are you a hobbyist first or are you a competitive player first? Lots of folks love, the whole thing. But do you see yourself as someone who loves to kit bash and paint and then you enjoy getting those models to the table? Or do you mainly get stuff painted so you can play the game? Hank, for example, on our page says, I can only devote some time to so many things. Being ultra competitive with games that boil down to luck of dice rolls has never been my thing. But having fun with well-painted and well-built models is always a blast. And I got to say, I love what Adrian had to say on our Facebook page as well. Painting models is why I got into 40K again. The community from my LGS is why I stay. And the games are an added bonus on top. All very cool. Whichever way it is for you, and at the moment, Hobby is leading our poll. But whichever way it is for you, we'd love to know where you sit. Get into our Facebook page and have your say in the poll. All right, let's get into today's show. The 40K World Team Champs was supposed to be taking place in Austria right now. So before the world imploded with COVID, this week, teams from around the world would have been arriving in a small Austrian town to play for the WTC title. So that hasn't happened. But while the event is postponed until this time next year, behind the scenes, the organisers are working on a whole raft of initiatives that will make the event great. One of those things they're doing is a podcast. So 40K Today's John Damaris spoke to Neil Kerr from the WTC about the podcast and what they're doing.
Neil, welcome back to the show. Head judge from the WTC, formerly the ETC, right? You guys have some new media promotions that you guys are doing. Do you want to talk about how some of that's going to work and what's going on at the WTC? I'm sure people would be interested in an update.
Yeah, thanks for having me back on, Sean. So the WTC obviously got postponed this year. We had to push it to next year, as most big events have had to do because of COVID. And what we're going to be doing now that 9th edition is coming out, we're going to start the ball rolling, pushing the interest and building momentum. So we've secured partners already for the event. Army Painter are once again providing the trophies and awards, which they've done for several years now. Fantastic partner. Down Under Pairings and BCP are going to be our official app, providing an app and all the data, rankings, everything in the event, and stats analysis afterwards. And then what we've done is we've partnered with T Sports Network, which is the competitive arm of the Honest Wargamer, and they're our official media and stream partner. And part of that partnership is we started a podcast called the WTC Squadcast. And the idea is, our thoughts were that a lot of the podcasts right now are very American focused. The big podcasts are all done in America, and they'll focus on the American meta. Whereas obviously Europe gets some focus, but not as much. And there's such wide variety of metas in Europe. Like, for example, you never hear about what the Russians are doing. You never hear about that. You never hear very little about what the Italians are doing. So we thought it'd be really good to have a podcast that could focus on these different metas, different communities around the world. And we'd be well and able to do it since we obviously, the WTC, these teams are all part of our community already. So we have the contacts to do this.
All right, that's exciting. So we might actually get to hear from some of the Russians, which, by the way, if you could get me in contact with some of those guys, I would love to interview them for 40K Today.
Yeah,
I just think
hit me up if whoever you want to talk to. We've got the contacts for everybody. So
that's fantastic. So let's talk about that for a second. So you feel like the competitive focused podcasts are sort of American based, which I think I agree with. Although there is a new one that just came out in Australia called The Art of War Down Under.
Yep. And obviously they've got the Normal Blokes podcast as well, which is a great podcast there.
Yeah, absolutely. So, but I really do think you're absolutely right. There is a hole in the European side of things, right? I think Vanguard Tactics is the only one I can think of that's sort of in that area, and I don't think they're doing their podcast right now. Last I talked to Box, he wasn't knocking that out anymore. So,
No.
So who have you done an episode yet, or has it released?
So we have done an episode. It is actually, so we're recording now on Friday, and it's going to be going up tonight on YouTube, and obviously then the various sort of SoundClouds and other podcast sort of places. And you can just search it for the WTC Squadcast.
Awesome.
Squadcast, one word, and the first episode up there. This episode is just an introduction. It's just us talking about who we are, WTC, what our aims, our plans are. Also, T Sports Network, Rob is there talking about his plans. In fact, they're going to be live streaming 8 tables from the top row. All 8 tables will be live streamed simultaneously, switching between. They're going to have roving reporters in the field, and then he's obviously going to be producing both podcast content and video content over the coming year.
That's fantastic. So yeah, I think Rufio or Rob or the Honest Wargamer is a really good partner for you guys. It makes a lot of sense. Like they're doing a lot of cool stuff, and the T Sports Network looks amazing. So who's doing the podcast with you?
So the podcast is me, Tom, and Ishik. So the other 2 people that sort of drive the WTC. So we're the triumvirate. So we sort of run everything, keep the ship steering. So keep the ship steered. So we're running the podcast. We're going to be bringing lots of people in. For example, we want to talk about like because team play, there's a lot of very different pressures. We play for a team compared to a single person event, and you can sort of talk about how you manage that pressure and that psychology. So we're going to talk about the stress, and we're going to bring in Adam Abramovitz, Team USA captain, who himself has a professional sports background, talk about these things. We're going to be interviewing coaches and players and captains from all different teams, and pulling in people that maybe have other insights into sort of team played 40k, because that's the focus will also be, because obviously our niche, our tournament is about team play, and so there will be a heavy slant on sort of team play 40k. If we look at a codex, if we look at releases, we're going to be looking from the perspective of what would this mean in a team meta rather than necessarily a single meta.
So I guess that leads me to a question. Do you think that as tournament organizers, we should have more people shift towards team events? Now, they don't have to be 8-person team events. Maybe it's 3, maybe it's 5. I don't know what the right number is, but team events are so much fun, and they take a lot of the pressure of running enough rounds off of the tournament organizers, because if you have a 100-person tournament, you need like 6 rounds to resolve that. If you have a 300, what's that?
I think you need 7 rounds.
Yeah, you might be right. It might be 7, right? It's somewhere in that range. But if you had those same 100 people in 30 teams, now you've got
5-round event. You got 5-round events, easy.
Yeah, exactly. Also, from my experience, team events are some of the most rewarding experiences you can have. There's just something about playing on a team and just being in it with somebody. I mean, there's a whole big psychology around individual sports versus team sports, but I love being on a team. Like I absolutely love that. Do you guys find that that's true for a lot of your squads as well?
Yeah, 100% agree. I mean, team play, I think, is the most fun you can have in 40k. Most people go to 40k tournaments or keep coming back to 40k tournaments because of the social side. Yeah, you play, you win, you have that adulation if you manage to do well, but you wouldn't go to tournaments if you weren't having fun with your friends. So all the team play 40k is it takes all the good stuff of a 40k tournament plus the social aspects and puts it together. So you're constantly socializing with your friends, you're playing together as a unit, and there's just so much more sort of camaraderie and banter there. And it's just great fun. And it also presents very unique challenges. This whole idea of, when you play in a singles event, you play to win every game. You must win every game. When a team event, it's not about winning games, it's about maximizing points. And it presents a very different way to approach the game and creates some very interesting tactical nuances that you don't necessarily have in single play. And it must be good because we've got people who've been coming to the ETC and WTC for 13 years.
Crazy, right?
They come back every year. You've got people like Daniel Hesselberg, the Swedish captain. I mean, he travels to Adepticon and plays in the Adepticon team tournament. He would have been at the American team tournament this year. There are people that travel around the world just for team tournaments. So it is definitely a thing. So I would recommend it either as a player. Get your buddies together, find a team event near you, or even as a TO, try to run a team event. And on that note, we're actually thinking of creating like a TO group for people who run team events or are interested in running team events, just to sort of like, share knowledge and share sort of ideas, help people out. So if any TOs out there are interested in sort of like, having a chat and, stealing ideas from us or from other team event TOs, get in touch with me on Facebook and I'll put you in the group.
That's perfect. All right, Neil, thanks very much. Everybody should definitely check out these guys. It's the WTC Squadcast. I'm excited to listen, and thank you very much.
No worries. Thanks, John.
That's Neil Kerr. You can find out more about the podcast and everything else they're doing via their Facebook or, of course, by checking into the YouTube channel. The link for that is in our show notes. Okay, next up, get ready to smash face with Blood Angels 9th edition style top player and mentor Stephen Box stops in to break down how to play his favourite faction.
Today's episode of 40K Today is brought to you by Frontline Gaming. Frontline Gaming is a one-stop shop for all your Warhammer hobby needs, discounted products, American-made gaming mats and terrain, and a full line of miniatures painting service and daily hobby content. And this can all be found at frontlinegaming.org.
Welcome back. Stephen Box is a top player, he's a mentor, he's a content creator from the UK. You will have seen him via the great channel Vanguard Tactics. And if you know or follow Stephen, then you know his favourite faction, and one he's had plenty of success with, is Blood Angels. So John Damaris asked him for some help on your behalf. How do we make Blood Angels work in 9th edition?
All right, Stephen Box joining us to talk about Blood Angels. I almost said Dark Angels because that's what I have on the brain. but you are a Blood Angel paragon and have done very well with them in 8th edition. And I think people would like to hear, what are your plans for 9th edition with these sparkly vampires?
Yeah, well, first of all, John, thanks for having me back. The vampires, yeah, obviously these guys have taken quite a big change in the transition from 8th to 9th. A lot of their, I would say, tricks that I used to pull are no longer tricks I'm going to be able to use going into 9th edition. Some of the things that have really affected us is how you can no longer really conga line. That's very difficult. So you can't really get all the supporting buffs and abilities from characters and things. Also, protecting characters is a new challenge now. So list designs had to change. However, one of the biggest problems, obviously, now with 9th edition is that, and this is a real subtle thing, that if you have a combat weapon, you have to use it. You can't just, give people a little slap like you used to be able to and just attack with your regular profile. You have to now use those big axes or swords that a Sanguinary Guard have. So I'm actually leaning towards a little bit more Death Company in the list potentially, because I think they can still use really utilize some of their strengths there because of the smaller board movement. Getting an early board pressure with them is fantastic. List design's changing in a way that's really going to revolve around holding the board now. So again, with this list, I'm going to go for incursors rather than scouts, but still having some nice big heavy hitting units like the Sanguinary Guard and things that are going to do majority of the heavy lifting. So rather than before I would try and go in, wrap and trap, now it's going to be go in, destroy, and ideally consolidate, fight twice, and really making sure that you're utilizing the movement phase in the right way to maximize your charges so you can reach the units that you really need to hit. And also with the new CPs system is fantastic. That means a lot more CPs for a Blood Angel player, which is exactly what we need. Is we're a very thirsty army fighting twice and redeploying.
I did see what you did there.
Oh, thirsty. Yeah.
Thirsty vampires. Very cool. So would you say that one of the changes is, we've always fought over objectives, right? But now your Sanguinary Guard is going to go in and smash them on their objective, kill a bunch of stuff, consolidate, and then sort of just like be this, because they're pretty tough to remove. Like you don't just, you don't just pick them up because you feel you look at them funny, right? They're not like a unit of 10 guardsmen. They have good defensive stats, and sort of force your opponent to deal with them on the objective that he needs to clear off, right? Because so he can start scoring primary points again. And I think that's maybe where Blood Angel's strength is going to be, is in moving on to objectives and being like, all right, come into me, or, yeah.
Absolutely. And one of the biggest things I think in this edition that's going to be a standout for any army is the heroic intervention, because of the way that now combat works in terms of it's the first unit to be declared is the non-charging unit, or the or the non-player's turn now chooses. That's really important. Heroic intervention means that if somebody does come close to this big unit of Sanguinary Guard that could be camped on that objective, if you don't clear them in the shooting phase, I'm going to heroically intervene into you, which is massive. So I think the Blood Angels, if you're a Blood Angel player, don't fear. I think we still got some really, really good tricks there. I wouldn't be worried about, people have said, oh, you've got to drop down to 5-man units. For me, I'm still taking big old units because, the blast rule, I don't think is going to come up too much between, numbers of 6 and 10. My mates all roll really hot anyway, so I'm kind of used to taking lots of shots. I probably wouldn't run a 15-man unit of Death Company, but still plenty of things there. And like you said, John, it's not easy to remove Sanguinary Guard. But you could be looking at Terminators with Storm Shields. That could be another thing that I might add in the list and play around with. So there's lots of different things. Assassins are great allies now.
Terminators didn't go up in points, right? So they're more probably in line since everything else around them went up.
Yeah.
Terminators might represent a really good value. It'll be worth testing for sure. And another thing I want to point out about blast weapons is that if a tank has a blast weapon, it doesn't get to shoot into combat with a blast weapon. So there's still, if somebody takes a lot of blast weapons, you still have the old tried and true of reach out and touch them.
Absolutely. Yeah. No,
Right.
And that's exactly what, you can do with the Blood Angels with the 6-inch consolidations and pilings and things. So yeah, I'm feeling fairly confident with it. It's a change. And like I said, some of the tricks are gone, but there will be new tricks. I just need to figure them out. And then obviously I can share them with you guys.
So it sounds like you're still going to be a assault focused army that's going to move on to objectives and play with maybe some more durable stuff like Terminators or Vanguard to hold those objectives for a turn. I think that's a good place to start.
Absolutely. No, I'd agree.
All right. Thanks again for your time.
Thank you very much, mate.
That's Stephen Box. You can check out Vanguard Tactics and their cool new graphics and studio setup. The link is in our show notes, as always, or just go to vanguardtactics.com. Okay, who's ready to get a song stuck in your head? It's time for the Model of the Day.
It's the Model of the Day, the Model of the Day, the Model of the Day.
So today's model is an incredible bloodthirster from Montana Tabletop Wargamers. A big shout out to the team who say they do painting, modeling and gaming tips out of the Big Sky State. This effort took first place in an LGS painting competition and it fully deserves it. Man, they've gone right away from the usual blood reds and deep blacks of skin into a soft purple for the flesh of the bloodthirster, with gritty kind of pale highlights and a red gold metallic on the armor and the axe. The wings are black through red and then orange, and it's all blended beautifully. Check out the Insta link in our show notes. Great job, Montana. And if you have a model that you want us to feature on the show, or if you've seen a model that you think we should feature, let us know. You can either just get in touch with us via Facebook or use the hashtag 40K Today on Instagram or any social media, and we will find it. And that's it. That's it, folks, for today's 40K Today show. Thank you for joining us. We really appreciate it. A big thank you to our content producer, Alex Bainter, our social media guru, Tanya Gates, and our technical producer, Seamus Ronan, for all of their hard work again in putting the program together. Seamus had to do this kind of through a hurricane in his home state of New Jersey. So big ups to him. And I hope you are all as excited as we are about the contest we're running at the moment. Make sure you get to 40kprizes.com and enter for your chance to win a $1,500 Games Workshop shopping spree. We'll see you tomorrow. Until then, for Paul and John and the 40K Today team, I'm Steve Joel, and that's what's happening in 40K Today.